Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another horror movie review. In today's video, I am taking a look at a horror classic, Pet Sematary, which came out in 1989. A movie that I haven't watched since I was quite a young child. Not until recently anyway when I watched it, and I was pleasantly surprised at how good and still scary this movie is. I only remember little bits and pieces when I watched it the first time. I'd forgotten most of it before watching it the other night, so what is Pet Sematary about? Well, it's about a family who move into this new house and it has a horrible fast road on the driveway, the sort of road where fast trucks whiz past. The family discover from their neighbour that there is a walkway just near their houses and it leads them to a pet cemetery, which is basically what it says on the tin. It's a cemetery for all of the animals that get killed on that fast road. Now, of course, this family's new pet cat is run over and killed while the children and the wife are away, and then the neighbour from across the road takes the dad and the dead cat to this higher place past the pet cemetery, where the dad ends up burying the cat on this really weird ritual ground, and the dead cat ends up coming back to life, but it ain't the same kind of cat. It's a much more demonic and nasty cat. Little bit of a warning here now, but the most shocking part in this movie is definitely the moment where young toddler Gage is tragically run down and killed by a truck. And this is when the father ends up digging up his son's body. He then takes it up to Pet Sematary and buries him there in the hopes that his son will come back to him, which of course he does, but it is not the same Gage. In fact, this is a seriously messed up Gage that comes back to wreak havoc. Now, there are some really disturbing moments in this film, which I personally love, because it's rare to find a horror film these days that truly shocks me and catches me off guard, and this film does it excellently. Of course, we have that horrible scene where Gage is killed on the road, which, by the way, I did notice that the little dude playing Gage in this movie is the same kid that ends up playing Dylan in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But apart from young Gage's death being an absolutely jaw-dropping, shocking moment, I found the scene where the dad goes to his son's graveside and digs him up. And, you know, the part where the dad is cradling his son's dead body and hugging him, I don't know, it just made me feel a little bit uneasy, and I'm watching this in 2023. I can only imagine what the reaction was like way back in 1989. Something else that I liked about this film is that it doesn't rely on gory moments to be scary. It has the odd gross moment where, you know, the dad ends up pulling the dead cat off the grass because the cat is like stuck to it, and you've got the moment where, you know, Demon Gage comes back and he cuts the neighbor's foot with a blade. But this movie is definitely more psychological, and there's quite a few different stories thrown into this movie. For example, when the mum, she tells her story about her sister who was dying in the spare room, and oh, it just gives you the chills, especially when you end up seeing the state of this sister who does end up coming back to haunt the mother. There is actually another child in this movie, a daughter, and by the end of the film, when the credits were rolling, all I kept thinking about was this poor little girl. She ends up losing her whole entire family in the end because the daughter, she ends up being packed away, well, packed, and she goes off with the grandparents, you know, by the time the third act is in full swing, so she's kept out of it, although she does try warning her parents about the bad dreams that she's been having, and, you know, as usual, it's brushed off as imagination. See guys, you should have just listened to the little girl. The husband does annoy me by the end of this movie because Gage ends up killing the mum, and afterwards, when the dad has killed the demonic version of Gage, he decides to take his dead wife to Pet Sematary to bring her back. I mean, what? Has he learned nothing with what's just been happening in the whole of this film with the cat and the son? I was screaming at my TV when this was happening. I mean, if he had just accepted that his wife was dead and, you know, his other child, his daughter, she wouldn't have lost her whole family. I understand that he was probably in a complete crazy mental state at this stage, but, you know, I do think that maybe he believed that it would be different with his wife, because with his son Gage, he basically, the father, he got it into his head that he left it too long to bury the son in Pet Sematary. So he thought that if he buries his wife straight away after being murdered by her toddler son, then it would be different. Oh God, how wrong does that sound? The mum was murdered by her toddler son. There is also a famous line in this movie where it says, being dead is better. I tell you what, guys, after watching this film, that is so true. I liked the guy who was killed near the start of the movie, who was coming back in, like, you know, spirit form to try and warn the dad about Pet Sematary, and then the spirit guy was warning the wife, and he was trying to get her to go back home to stop the husband from doing what he was doing. I mean, it didn't work in the end, but I just like those little moments, you know, with the spirit guy at one point, he was like there all happy and smiling because he managed to get through to the wife, because you know what, guys, you need very little moments like that, because this is a very dark movie. I do think it's one of Stephen King's best movies and novels. I do actually prefer this to It, the clown movie. When Gage came back in his demonic form, he was scary and proper badass. When he was creeping to the neighbor's house and we could hear him giggling in different rooms, I thought it was really well done. It was getting really intense. You know, my partner, he had his head behind a pillow, and you just knew that Gage was gonna pop out at some point, and yeah, I just loved it. It was really well done. Also, this scene where Gage is trying to kill his dad, like, wow. I thought for a moment that we had crossed over to Child's Play. I mean, this version of Gage, the demonic version, was wild. The mother's death scene was off screen, but I think it worked really well and it was quite effective. I mean, it was one of those moments again where we just hear the screams and it's left to the viewer's imagination, because we do get to see everybody else's deaths on screen, and there is just enough gore to keep the gore fans happy. I did like the bit where Gage bites open the neighbor's throat. It was really gross and still effective today. I just loved it. In fact, I absolutely loved this movie. It was really nice to watch all of these years later, not remembering most of what happened, just little bits and bobs. There are moments in this film that really gets you thinking, like, would you do what the dad did? Like, if someone you truly loved was tragically taken away from you, and you knew that there was some way of trying to bring them back, would you do it? And also, it reminds us that life can change in just a click of a finger. You know, especially during that scene where the family are all on the grass having a barbecue, having loads of fun, and then the next moment Gage runs out onto the road and is killed in front of everyone. Boom, your whole life is gone and changed in an instant. So yeah, I flippin' love this movie. I do plan on adding it to my Blu-ray collection. I haven't seen the remake of this film and I haven't read or watched any reviews on it, so I may end up watching the remake this weekend just to see how it compares. I'm going to go in completely blind. I mean, I know remakes don't normally do very well, but I have been pleasantly surprised before, so I'll definitely keep an open mind. I'll go in totally blind and I will be back on the channel to do a review on that remake. Anyway guys, I want to hear some of your thoughts. Do we have any Pet Sematary fans in the house? What do you love about this movie? What do you hate about this movie? Was this movie just a little bit too much for you in terms of the death of a minor? Because I know that can be too sensitive for some viewers, which I totally get. So guys, do not hold back. Let me know everything in the comments box below. Okay then guys, well, thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very soon.